Well, yesterday, India Today broke the story about how the Jammu and Kashmir government is contemplating giving ex-Gratia or compensation to Khalid and Burhan Wani's family. Burhan Wani, remember, the Hizbul commander who was killed in an encounter by security forces a year earlier in 2015. His brother Khalid had also been killed. Now the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti has battled for Burhan Wani's brother. A day after that controversy, she issued a statement saying that we have to, and I quote, differentiate between a militant and his family, his brother and his parents. She further went on to reiterate that local militants should be brought back into the mainstream rather than being killed in encounters. Remember, Burhan Wani's older brother Khalid was killed by the security forces last year.
अगर हम एक ही नजर से देखेंगे, शक की नजर से देखेंगे, सख्ती की नजर से देखेंगे, तो फिर हम ये माहौल ठीक नहीं कर पाएंगे। हमें फर्क करना पड़ेगा मिलिटेंट और मिलिटेंट की फैमिली में। मिलिटेंट के माँ बाप, उसके भाई बहन, उसके बच्चे, हमें फर्क करना पड़ेगा। हमको सबको एक ही नजर से नहीं देखना है।
Joining us now on that story is Shuja Haq from Srinagar and my colleague Gaurav Sawant from our newsroom. But Shuja, I want to ask you first, because yesterday when we spoke to the PDP spokesperson, he said there is no finality to this compensation being given. It is something that has been proposed and the government will wait for objections. But listening to Mehbooba Mufti today, it seems she is in principle in support of this compensation being given to the Wanis.
Well, that's exactly how it looks like. And in fact, Padmaja, you know, when you try and dissect this entire process of granting, or sanctioning these cases, it's not just out of blue that the Deputy Commissioner's office will, publish a list of people. There is a whole lot of systems, processes that are followed to this level. There are, officials under Deputy Commissioner at Patwari's level, at Tehsildar's level, who do their groundwork first. In fact, CID, police, all these departments are involved before it reaches to this level where the Deputy Commissioner finally publishes the list and asks for people if they have any individual objection to the final list. So saying that there is no finality to it is something that is being taken by, with a pinch of salt. Having said that, what Mehbooba Mufti said today is very, very significant. She made it very clear. She mentioned the fact that difference has to be made between a militant and his family, a militant and his brother, a militant and his parents. So this comes just a day after this, order was issued by Deputy Commissioner in Pulwama. So clearly, it does look like that there is complete support from the government when it comes to this order that has been issued. And also the J&K police and the sources in the police department say that they have found nothing in terms of records against Khalid Wani. So that is another pointer.
All right, just stay with me, Shuja. Let me also get in Gaurav. Gaurav, so in essence, has the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir today contradicted the official stand that had been taken by the army when she says, let's differentiate Burhan Wani's brother and family from him? Burhan was a quote-unquote militant according to Mehbooba Mufti. His brother wasn't, if one were to read between the lines of what she said. And this is in direct contravention of what the army had said.
Spot on there. In fact, Burhan Wani was a terrorist who had at least 10 to 15 cases of murder, attempt to murder registered against him. He was a wanted gun-wielding terrorist who was killed in an encounter with security forces. As far as Khalid Wani is concerned, there was a grey area because army throughout maintained he was not only an overground worker of the Hizbul Mujahideen terrorist organization. The army at that point of time had said that he was also a recruiter, and in that operation when he was killed, he was taking two local boys to meet the Hizbul Mujahideen terrorists in the forest. But that, one, hadn't come on record, and two, the Jammu and Kashmir government also maintained that there was a grey area. Now Mehbooba Mufti is saying that, you have to make a distinction between a terrorist or militant, as she puts it. Burhan Wani was a terrorist, yes. Khalid Wani, according to army sources on ground, was an overground worker and a recruiter, but there's nothing, as Shuja rightly pointed out, nothing on paper against him in terms of him being a terrorist. So there, the Jammu and Kashmir government is actually right, where kin of, terrorists are being given money and an attempt is being made to, bring them on board. And that is a very ambitious exercise that the Mehbooba Mufti government, along with the army, by the way, have started in Jammu and Kashmir, trying to win local boys over who may have gone to terror ranks after Burhan Wani was killed. There is an effort to bring them on board to become regular citizens, honest citizens of society, and an effort is being made. There have been 2 instances where terrorists, gun-wielding terrorists, local Kashmiri boys were encouraged to abandon the weapon and come on board. Whether it happens with money, with jobs or with other promises is a different story. But Omar Abdullah is extremely unhappy about it. Like he said, if he's a local citizen who was killed, will there be an inquiry against the army, he asked yesterday.
Absolutely, and he in fact has tried to fish in troubled waters yesterday when the former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister took to Twitter, and he yesterday jumped right in the middle of that compensation row where Omar Abdullah said that maybe if the government, the Jammu Kashmir government, through its act of awarding compensation has contradicted what the army has said, will this be probed as a fake encounter? And which is what makes it even more curious, Shuja, because the government here seems to be adopting a really cock-eyed approach when it comes to dealing with terrorism. On the one hand, we had, and I'll also get Gaurav in on this in a bit, we've had earlier several ministers, MLAs of the BJP saying that people who take up arms who lives by the gun will die by the gun. And now we have Mehbooba Mufti saying that militants should be brought into the mainstream instead of being killed in encounters. Isn't that going to hamstring the operations of the army and the security forces in the valley? Shuja.
Well, that there is a point, Padmaja, and one has to realize that here, the government is formed by PDP and BJP. Since yesterday, since we broke this story, we have seen how BJP has seen really shying away from even commenting on this issue. Their spokespersons have constantly maintained that they haven't heard much, there hasn't been much done by the government, but the reality on the ground is very, very difficult. So it will be for sure very difficult for the BJP to explain its position in this government, because if the PDP takes a line which is soft towards the militants or their families, there'll be direct questions asked towards BJP, because earlier their stand have been very, very different and stringent towards these issues. And
okay,
that's
just stay
what
with
even
me,
the
Shuja.
opposition
Let me also bring in former DGP MM Khajuria, who's with us on the phone line now. Mr. Khajuria, what do you make of this entire confusion vis-a-vis Khalid Wani and Burhan Wani? Was he a terrorist as the army has claimed, or was he not, as the government now seems to imply?
Well, we have to go by the facts of the case as they have been brought out from time to time. And till the latest development in which Khalid Wani's parents were compensated, the position that has been held by the security forces and indeed by the government itself was not what it is today. The basic question is that the people conduct themselves in a particular manner, particularly when we are dealing with a Wahhabi mentality. So this is a situation in which the father of Burhan Wani, Khalid Wani, kept his on record and said that he has sacrificed 2 sons in jihad. If he had another one, he would sacrifice him also. So the police and the government and the security forces have to go by facts.
And exactly these facts that you talk about, Mr. Khajuria, sorry, I made a mistake earlier in calling him a terrorist as claimed by the army. He is claimed to be an overground worker. But for people to be awarded this compensation as per policy, what my understanding is that you have to have been a civilian who was either killed by terrorists or were caught in the crossfire. But even if you are aiding and abetting a terror activity, are you then eligible for this compensation, being an overground worker?
Listen, there's a very thin line between so-called overgrown worker and a person who is complicit in terrorist activities. In this case of Khalid Wani, it was on record that he had gone to the hideouts in the jungle where Burhan Wani was camping and carried some message and also some eatables for him. That's the position that we know as far as on record is concerned. Now, you start trying this very fine distinction between overground and underground.
Okay.
You are getting nowhere.
Okay.
The point is that this is the two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
And anybody who is complicit in this, in our law says that anybody who abets the crime is as guilty as the criminal himself. So that is the position, and that's the position by which we should go.
All right. So is this grey area between an overground worker and a civilian is what is being exploited in this present case? How will the Jammu and Kashmir government explain compensation being given? Mr. Khajuria, Shujaul Haq, Gaurav Sawant, thank you very much for joining us on that story. There's more news coming in.